Hey. Okay, so the biggest patch the Darkest Dungeon 2 has had thus far is now on live. It's been on experimental for the past few days, so I've been playing all this stuff. Basically, there are new trophies, new Lair Boss trophies, new Infernal Flames, which are interesting, and then the Grave Robber and the Highwayman have been completely changed. Their paths, including Wander, have been completely changed. So I will break this down. I'll break down this patch notes. The patch notes are in the description if you would like to look at them yourself, which I think you should because it's very long. So I will try to pick what I feel like is the most important. I'm not going to read through every little thing. If you don't know who I am, I have like 1,000 hours in this game, a little under, like 974, I think. I had like 500 hours in the first game. I stream every day on Twitch at twitch.tv/MarinerHawk, which is also in the description. I started like 8:30-ish PST. I've been streaming every day for like the last 7 months now. It's gonna keep going, and I play this game all the fucking time. So let's get into what I think are the most important things, kind of in this patch notes. First of all, these are they added one new trophy for each boss. So I'll show you what they are. So first of all is the decimal system. That's with this one right here. So if first in turn order plus 5% damage, but if last in turn order plus 1 stress. And then we have the Safety of Slumber, which is right here. So everybody in your party gets plus dot resist, but in return it gets -2 speed. So this is another one of the trophies that could technically be a negative depending on when you get it, depending on which act boss that you're going against. And it's one of those definitely that's if you happen to get this one early, like in region 1 or 2, and you get to go through actually a region with that increased dot resistance, I can put you in a really good spot. But depending on the act boss, it may not be the most useful in the world. So then we have the Undertow right here. Don't get confused by this. This is 100% move resist piercing. Means something like Demon's Pull. Means something like Echoing March. Because it's a little confusing because it says if you don't read the piercing part, you're going to think that you have 100% move resist, and then you're going to gain every time, blah, blah, blah. So, but either way, this is the piercing, and then this is every time that any of your heroes resists being moved, it heals 20%, which could put you in a really nice spot. But if you do get moved, it will immobilize you. So think of something like the situation that I've had this was something along the lines of like Leper Coward, or Leper that just gets hit back at all. He could get hit to the back and then immobilize. So another one that could potentially be a negative, but honestly, the positives are well worth the negative in my opinion. But it's something you got to keep an eye on. And then we have the Rancid Feast, which is this one right here. So this wiki is outdated. I believe it is a 1 in 3 chance now for you to get the blight when hit. So it's a little bit kind of like the Corrupted Bile Gland, which is the trinket. But yeah, I believe it is a chance. It's a 1 in 3 now. So then the bumper crop, they also changed. They changed it from plus max health to plus healing received. And also this wiki is wrong. I believe this is -25% now. Death Spell resist. So my understanding is that the bumper crop was overperforming, so they changed it a little. And then we'll get into the new flames. So the new flames, the first one right here is the Fragile Flame, which is this one right here. So I haven't tried this one yet, but basically my understanding is every region that you do, it picks 5 of 1, 2, 9. So it picks 5 of these 9 and gives it to your party. So it's randomized every region, which is my understanding, which is really recent, which is really interesting. One thing that I actually like about these new flames is the confession flame effects are still unchanged. So that means every act that you do, I believe this resets every act. It might be region. I don't know. Sorry, I haven't tested it out yet, but you still get like on act 3, you still get the plus healing received and the chance of a speed token. So it's instead of taking out the different flame idea for each one, it still keeps it. So that one is interesting. And the Killer's Glow, which is right here. So essentially what it is it sounds kind of a funny one. I have tested those ones. So gain on killing blow plus 1% crit for that hero until the next in. So for that region, let's see, you have a Leper. The Leper gets a kill. He gets plus 1% crit, and it stacks however many you want. But on killing blow, every other ally gets 1 stress. So you can really buff up, if you play it correctly, you can really buff up one of your heroes, but you have to keep an eye on stress on everybody else. It's just kind of funny. It's something that's kind of chaotic. And the normal bright light modifier is or any if your hero has less than 20% health, they get -2% speed, -2 speed, sorry. And then if the enemy is less than 20% health, they get plus 20% damage dealt. So the idea kind of with this is you, in theory, want to buff this, want to buff one person as much as you can, or a couple heroes, whatever. You want to have the killing blow on one person as much. I think of something like the occultist, either with burning stars or like abyssal artillery, because at least that way, if you get plus 5% crit, it's plus 5% on abyssal artillery, which is cool. The idea with this is, right, you want to buff a hero, you want to manage stress, which is going to be difficult because every time you get a kill, it's 3 stress. Keep in mind, this doesn't count if you get a dot kill, so you can sort of minimize the stress with that if you would like to. You know, if the dot takes them from 2 health to 0, it doesn't count as a killing blow, so nobody gets the crit, but also nobody gets the stress. And then you want to keep everybody keep your heroes above 20%, and keep their heroes. You need to execute this. You can't leave any of these heroes kind of low. Keep in mind something like a boss fight, like whether it be a lair boss fight or an act boss fight, where less than 20% still might be like, 40 health or whatever. So it's a little difficult to kind of take that out. Something like the Exemplar that does a lot of damage, but something you got to keep in mind. These are just interesting modifiers, really. The Star of the Chosen I like, which is really unique. So how it works is at combat start, one hero and one enemy will get 3 taunts. So this can be rough sometimes, depending on, like, cultist fights kind of get tough, because the altar can be able to worship if it's not taunted. So something to keep in mind. And then at the beginning of every round, one hero and one enemy gets comboed. So keep in mind, this sometimes can, the RNG, it can combo the same person twice, which essentially is nothing. It's still, there's no difference between 2 combo and 1 combo. So, and it can also technically combo corpses, but the corpses won't get the combo. So if you ever get a round that, like, nothing happened either on one side or on both sides, that's probably what it means. Is it either gave another combo, which doesn't exist, or it gave the corpse a combo. If the hero has a combo, they get plus 10% received, and if an enemy has a combo, it's plus 5% crit chance. And then when you get lower, it gets interesting. So this is one of those where you could technically let the flame get a little bit lower if you would like to, and kind of play with it like that. It's very, obviously, any sort of combo comp, anything like pistol shot with the Highwayman that can stun, or something like Slice Vein with the Highwayman also, which can double the bleed. Something like that's pretty interesting. The taunts, as you can imagine, on your own heroes can put you in a bad situation if you have something like Alchemist Plague Doctor with like 22 HP. That taunts could be bad, but it's an interesting one to kind of just mess around with, just because it's interesting. And being able to combo a lot is kind of fun, because typically you can get more value off a combo than the enemies can. Obviously, depends on the fight, but it's a fun one to kind of mess around with. And then we have the new beast that is Bastard's Beacon. Okay, so the Bastard's Beacon is the new hardest torch in this game, and it is very difficult. So let's get into this. So enemies have a 100% chance to ordain. That means every enemy you ever fight is going to be ordained. Lair bosses are always ordained. Wandering bosses have an increased chance to appear. My understanding via the wiki is double chances. And confession bosses gain unique buffs. So, and confession bosses are also ordained also. So this one's very difficult. I've tried it a little bit. I'm going to show you the Act 3 boss, the buffs that the Act 3 boss gets, just to get an example, because they each have their own unique, again, their own unique buffs. So let's talk about it right here. Minus the loathing right here, because this picture was from the wonderful Owen in my Discord. So apply on crit, it steals all positive tokens and takes away, or it gives you a scene token. Keep in mind that later in the patch notes, I'll show you, Behold now has a 30% chance to crit. Everything that didn't have a chance to crit before, those, like, Barbaric Yop and stuff, Bellow, those ones that could be used with crit tokens but did not have a base crit chance, they have a crit chance now. So Behold is another examples of that. It steals, keep in mind, not copies, steals all positive tokens, and then adds a scene token. So it also gets plus 33% debuff resist piercing. These are just the ordainment buffs, which are still pretty nuts. But Behold ignores stealth and removes all stealth, and then suppress transfers all the dots. So for you guys that anybody that's fought the focus fault, fought the Act 3 boss, it's hard enough as it is, and then this gets into it, and it's fucking insane. So my understanding, based off of the runs that I've done so far, which is a small handful based on the Bastard's Beacon, is the first region is going to be very, very difficult because you have everything ordained now, which is everything is buffed, and you are probably, depending on what the Valley Inn gives you, you may not have the healing salves or the medicinal herbs or whatever to necessarily combat that. So the difficulty is kind of weird on this, at least coming from Stygian. So it's the first one is really hard. The first region is really hard, and then it feels mostly like Stygian after that, if anybody's played Stygian. But people that watch my stream see me play Stygian all the time, and my shit rocked. And then it's going to be very hard again if you have wandering bosses. So if you have death in your party, my understanding is it's a 6% chance per fight that death will come. Now it's a 12% chance per fight. So you're going to get her relatively early, which could be another problem. It's not even counting Shambler, Collector, and Warlord. And then the lair bosses being ordained can be pretty insane because of like dot chances and stuff like that, or extra duration dealt. So you think something like the Librarian, which can AoE your team, either with or just apply a lot of burn. Now that's going to get magnified, so that's going to be difficult. And then obviously the lair bosses is going to be very, very difficult. So we've talked a little bit about this on my stream as far as the viability of doing like a Grand Slam with the Bastard's Beacon. I don't see, you would have to get so insanely lucky. So I was running I was doing a Bastard's Beacon run yesterday, and it was going really well. Then guess what? I got crit, and then my Flagellant died to a 90. So that's one of those where like you have to go 5 entire acts without something like that happening on a frankly a pretty ruthless torch. I don't see anybody doing a Grand Slam on this anytime soon. Maybe with some of the path reworks, like the future path reworks that are about now, but Bastard's Beacon is fucking hard. Okay, so let's get into, I'm going to get into what I think the most interesting parts, or the most important parts, I suppose, of this is. I'm going to miss some stuff. You guys are going to probably think that I'm missing some important stuff, but I'm just going to kind of go into some of the big changes. A lot of it is damage changes, crit changes, blah, blah, blah. So I'll get into some of the more unique ones. So Lunge on Wanderer now applies a knockback of 2 on 2, knockback of 2 on crit. So if you lunge and crit, it knocks back 2, which is interesting. And then Lunge Plus gets a knockback of 3. Kick to the face when you master it removes all block from the target on a successful crit. You'll see a couple different skills that do something on crit. So it's interesting that will be a natural buff to just crit in general, or crit tokens in general, to be able to kind of rely on that. Pirouette and Pirouette Plus cooldown reduced to 2. They also apply 1 weak token to the Grave Robber. But if she's stealthed, it does not. So the idea with this is you want her to be stealth and then doing the Pirouette. And more importantly and more interesting to me, at least in my opinion, Pirouette, when you master it, applies the days and weak to the tokens if the Grave Robber has stealth. Days and weak to the target, sorry, if the Grave Robber has a stealth. I think that's actually really, really interesting, and then adds some interesting kind of utility to her, I guess. So if you can stealth her, obviously this will work well with Nightsworn. If you can stealth her and you can master Pirouette, which is good for damage purposes anyways, then it adding a days and a weak token to the first 2 enemies can put you in a pretty good spot. Repartee Plus adds a 3-round buff that grants a 50% chance of adding a dodge token whenever attacks miss the Grave Robber. This is only applied if Repartee is used while the Grave Robber has stealth. Interesting. Shadow Fade, when you master it, no longer gives a speed token, and now gives a strength token. Okay, so just to add a little bit of context to these changes, not only Grave Robber changes, but the Highwayman changes also, is my understanding is that they want to go through the old paths, system, and turn them into new path system. So by the old path system, I mean like Alchemist. Alchemist, it gives you Blight Piercing, it gives you minus health, so it gives you these stats. You have some of the old ones, and then the new ones would be like the Flagellant, where skills do different things. You can use them in different ranks. They don't affect the base stats, they just affect skills and where you can use them, etc. So Deadeye, for example, used to just give minus movement piercing and have some number changes to it, but now going through all these paths, they're going to have They're not going to have the stat changes like they did before. Like right here. Melee skills are no longer negatively impacted this path. Movement resist is no longer negatively impacted by this path. But the skills are going to do something different, not only from Wanderer, but from the different paths. And makes it a little more interesting, in my opinion. So, Absinthe Dog tokens gets 2. No longer gets a speed token. Flashing Daggers and Flanching Daggers Plus. This is on Deadeye. Change from 2-3-4 to just 3-4. So it's a little more of a backline. A little more of a backline path. You're probably not going to make a huge difference, but it is more of a little bit more backline path. It does have a lot more crit. They kind of the TLDR of these paths is they wanted to make Flashing Daggers used more, and for the Highwayman they want to make Grape Shot Blast used more. So this will be you'll see that more you'll see this changes kind of as we get into these paths. Thrown Dagger and Thrown Dagger Plus no longer ignore guard. That's something that's worth thinking about. Thrown Dagger, when you master it, grants 2 speed for 3 turns on crit. So keep in mind, you're going to be critting a lot on this path. So that's actually really, really good. So if you're running Deadeye, you should probably master Thrown Dagger pretty early. You probably should have before, but now definitely even more. You get even more, and this stacks also. So you can both plus 2 speed, plus 4 speed, blah, blah, blah. So get into Nightsworn. Nightsworn and Sharp Shot were 2 feel-good paths for the 2 heroes respectively. I'm not entirely sure how the casual player is going to think of these changes, because it definitely makes the paths more interesting, but it takes away the really feel good lunge damage or like double tap damage that was on Sharp Shot before. I'd be interested. I have a lot of hours in this game, so my opinions obviously are different. This is definitely more interesting for the person like me that has a lot of hours, because it makes these paths more nuanced. But I could see if a casual player or if somebody who has less hours, maybe hasn't put a bunch of time into it, maybe don't like it nearly as much. That's what I'm maybe a little bit worried about. Okay, so let's get into Nightsworn. Nightsworn and friends, cover your ears. Flashing Daggers and Flashing Daggers Plus change from 2-3 to 2-3-4. So that's target rank. So now on this path, Flashing Daggers hits 3. At Grape Shot Blast, you'll see does something similar later in the patch notes. So this is really interesting, just to be able to hit 3 in general, to be able to clear tokens and tokens that have on-hit abilities like Dead Ringer, Extracting Dust, etc. Corrupted Bile Gland, that kind of stuff. This will feel really nice. So Flashing Daggers Plus can only be used when the Grave Robber has Stealth. And Flashing Daggers now has a 50% chance to remove the Grave Robber's remaining Stealth when used. Now Lunge. Lunge, when you master, now no longer ignores block. It still ignores dodge, but it no longer ignores block. So keep in mind, if you are taking Nightsworn into the Tangle, boy, you better have Pick to the Face on, because I have taken Nightsworn kind of like the lunge bot style into the Tangle, and boy does it feel bad. So if you feel like you're going to go against a lot of blocks, make sure you have Pick to the Face, because this will definitely cut down. No longer ignoring block will definitely cut down kind of her feel good, safe kind of damage that she did before. When you master Lunge, it has execution that's pretty good. Lunge and master Lunge plus 50% damage while a Grave Robber has Stealth. So it mentions it up here. Stealth no longer has a blanket plus 50% damage on this path. So when Stealth it's plus 50%, now it is on the abilities in general. Pirouette, mastered have no inherent penalties. Pirouette ignores block if the Grave Robber has Stealth, so that can be interesting. Reduce the cooldown of Pirouette from 2 to 1. Repartee has a 3-turn cooldown, and the reason that is because you can now give taunt to a target ally. This could be really interesting. This will work with the Highwayman reposting. This can work with just a tank in general, just to not have to use that tank's turn to give the taunt. You can give it to, this makes like a dodge tank, something like with the Duelist, if you have the Duelist unlocked. This could be really good. Now, the thing about this is it applies a buff for 2 turns that grants the Grave Robber 1 stealth on turn start. So she gets to be stealthed, but it also removes any remaining stealth at the end of the turn for the duration of the buff. So you get it for your move, but you don't get it for the enemy's move. Meaning you can't just sit back and we've used Repartee. You can't just sit back and be stealthed and never take any damage, or never take any directed damage at least. So repartee, as it's two parts of it. It's giving the taunt, and it's also she gets stealth for her turns, but for her turns only. So she loses the stealth at the end of the turn. Keep in mind that this will offset like Shadow Fade. So Shadow Fade, you'll move back and you'll get 2 stealth tokens, but then if you repartee at any point also, you will lose the stealth tokens at the end of the turn. So as opposed to Shadow Fade normally, you get to stealth and stay stealth. Repartee means you stealth and you lose it at the end of your turn. Thrown Dagger, and Thrown Dagger Plus no longer ignore guard. Another reason to run Pick to the Face on here if you're going to be going against a lot of guards. Thrown Dagger and Thrown Dagger Plus now ignore Riposte if the Grave Robber has stealth. This is good because I feel like there needs to be more ignoring Riposte or getting rid of Riposte in this game. So it's pretty good. So we get into Venom Drop. I liked Venom Drop a lot before. Not a lot of people did. People were definitely turned off by the negative speed, but the negative speed isn't here anymore. So Venom Drop, typical or the same as Night Swarm. Get into kind of get a little bit more nuanced of a path instead of just sit back and flashing dagger. So Stealth no longer grants a blanket +2 blight dealt passive buff on this path, similar to how Night Sworn got moved. The stealth damage got moved to the abilities itself. It's the same with Venom Drop, where the extra blight got moved to the abilities itself. So Absinthe is changed. Absinthe removes all dots when you master it. Absinthe normally will remove blight, and then when you master it, it provides plus 30% blight resist. So this will be really nice to get her through the feeder so that she doesn't get basically just blow up in here. The Flashing Daggers now does +2 blight when the Grave Robber's stealth, which is technically what it did before, but instead of being on the path, it's now on Flashing Daggers itself. Flashing Daggers Plus is the same thing. Poison Dart and Poison Dart Plus no longer benefit from combo. So that is something that is worth remembering. It's worth understanding. Poison Dart deals +2 blight when the Grave Robber has stealth, and then when you master it, it's +3 blight. Shadow Fade and Shadow Fade Plus, blight resist piercing, reduced from 30% to 20%. Shadow Fade Plus duration of blight resist increased from 1 turn to 2. So instead of 1 turn of 30, you now get 2 turns of 20, which in my opinion is better. Thrown Dagger and Thrown Dagger Plus, no longer ignore guard, and then Thrown Dagger when you master it applies weak to targets with blight. So this can be interesting. That can put you in an interesting scenario. So instead of just her being a flash and dagger spot, she's a little bit more nuanced. You could flash and dagger, and then if it's an enemy that you feel like is going to do a lot of damage, you can master Thrown Dagger, and weaken them. Okay, so all 3 of her trinkets got completely reworked. So these are the new ones right here. Let me show you them. So Foreclosure Notice used to be the Venom Drop path where she'd sit in the back and get combos, and also she would get stealth on hit, or a chance to get stealth on hit. So if stealth plus 20% damage, and then Shadow Fade removes all negative tokens. This could be any path really, but being able to remove all negative tokens off Shadow Fade, pretty good. I haven't really been able to test these trinkets out too much, but this one's pretty solid right here. This you're going to be leaning towards stealth in general, which kind of you're doing on all the paths now instead of just being only on 2 paths. It's now the Grave Robber's changed to basically now stealth. You want to be stealth, or at least have the opportunity to be stealth on any path, because every path benefits from it, which is interesting. This said it makes him more nuanced. His rings apply to attacker when missed combo. So this means you're going to be leaning into either you have a lot of blinds in your party, or dealing into more dodges via repartee, depending on the path the path that she is. Pick to the Face plus 10% crit, pretty good. And then Dead of Night is +2 relics and +1 bauble. This is pretty funny, and I do like that it leans into like the Grave Robber aspect of like the Grave Robber. Dead of Night is her get rid of a corpse and then get some stealth, and she also steals a little bit too, which is kind of funny. And then anytime she gets hit, she gets +1 stress, which could be bad, but depending on the party that you have, you should be able to offset that a little bit. And then if you are using Dead of Night, you'll be able to use get rid of stress when you master it. So now Stiff Drink is just apply on crit, apply 1 blight. If she is stealthed, it's +1 dealt just in general, like a little bit of a mini Venom Drop. And then Absinthe gives her 1 blight. Pretty simple. Now, those are the Grave Robber changes. What are my opinion of the Grave Robber changes? Also, really what it comes down to is it's the word that I'm going to keep using, and it's that these heroes now are more nuanced, and these paths are more nuanced. They are not just be stealth and do more damage, but also lose speed, or they're not just going to lose, uh, move resist. They're more nuanced. Is that a good thing? For people like me and for people that play this game a lot, yes, because it allows you to do more interesting things with her and allows her to be a little more useful in certain situations. But again, I do worry with both the Highwayman and the Grave Robber that people that had their feel good paths, being Night Sworn Lunge, um, and Sharp Shot especially, these feel good paths, now that they're taken away, I don't know how people are going to react to that. And honestly, whatever opinions you guys have in general about these paths, let me know, because I'm interested. Because like I said, I'm admittedly a little bit, I talk to people in my chat and I talk to people in the comments, but it's been a long, long time since I've played this game at any level that is what of the average person plays it. So I don't truly know what the average player thinks. I can guess, but the truth is that's just when you're somebody who plays this game as often as you do, and I stream this game as often, the best I can do is just what you guys tell me. So I'm interested what everybody else thinks about this. Overall, it's good for me, but I am a whale of this game. There's less of me than there are of the average player and the casual player of this game. So I don't, you know, I understand that's more interesting from their aspect. I'm a little worried. I'm a little hesitant that maybe these will feel a little less bad or feel a little less good for the average player. So let's get into the Highwayman. Highwayman completely changed too, just like the Grave Robber is. So this is Wanderer, Double Cross, and Double Cross ignore block. They no longer apply the vulnerable though, and then Double Cross and Double Cross Plus now clear all block and block plus on the target. So instead of getting rid of, a la vulnerability hacks from the occultist, instead of getting rid of the guards and then giving vulnerable, it now just gets rid of the guards. It still gives him a guard token. A little bit of a frontline kind of tankiness to it, but a little bit of a nerf from that aspect. And when you master it, it prevents the target from gaining block and block plus for 2 rounds. Grape Shot, Blast, launch ranks from 2-3-4 to 1-2-3-4, so you can use them in the front rank if you would like to, and then now do Grape Shot, Blast there. So as I was talking about earlier, the abilities that could crit before with a crit token but did not have a base crit chance now have a base crit chance, and Highway Robbery is one of them. Highway Robbery and Highway Robbery Plus applies negative 5% chance crit debuff to the target for 3 turns. Then when you master it, it gives him plus crit, so it steals their crit, quote unquote, which is kind of cool. As Highway Robbery and Highway Robbery Plus can now apply a debuff, they no longer require that the target has positive tokens. So you can use Highway Robbery on a target that doesn't have tokens just for the negative 5% crit chance. If you, just for the minus 5% crit chance. And now they can no longer ignore crit tokens, meaning if you have a crit token and you use Highway Robbery, it's going to use up that crit token, and it's going to use it for the 20% debuff resist or the minus crit chance. Take aim and take lane plus no longer grant dodge, and the cooldown goes from 1 to 2. So let's get into Rogue. Rogue is now essentially a riposter. Is pretty much is what it is. It's a riposter, kind of like you're gonna play it similar to the Duelist. It's kind of like Duelist if you don't have DLC. So let's get into this. So the main thing, Duelist Advance and Duelist Advance Plus, instead of moving forward 1, they move forward 2. Now that goes alongside with Point Blank Shot, where Point Blank Shot now knocks him back 2. So you're going to be, if that's the way you want to play, if you want to play Duelist Advance into Point Blank, you're going to be juggling between the 1 and 2, or the 1 and 3 rank, sorry, instead of the 1 and 2. Duelist Advance now grants a block, which is nice if you're playing him because you're going to be playing him in the front line on Rogue. And then when you master it, it gives a block plus. And the Duelist Advance, when you master Duelist Advance, it no longer gives you 3 riposts, which it did before. It now gives you, the change is it gives you 2 riposts similar to Unmastered Duelist Advance, and then it also gives you a block plus token. So Grape Shot Blast and Grape Shot Blast, launch ranks change from 1, 2, 3 to 1, which you can only use it in the first rank. It moves him back 1, and it hits 3. So that's essentially what that is. So you can only use it in the first rank. It'll hit 3, kind of like Flashing Daggers that I was talking about with the Grave Robber, and it'll move him back 1. So if you still want to juggle between the 1 and 2, you can go Duelist Advance, Grape Shot, Duelist Advance, Grape Shot. But if you want to bounce between the 1 and 3, it's Duelist Advance, Point Blank, Duelist Advance, Point Blank. Hopefully that makes sense. Point blank no longer applies combo and no longer grants riposte. Grants riposte was on the path itself, not on the ability itself. And like I said, it knocks it back to 2. Take aim and take aim plus ranks from 1, 2 to, so you can't use in the 4 rank essentially, not on rogue. But rogue you're going to be playing in the front anyways. It grants 2 riposte now. It no longer does crit dodge or removes blind. It grants 2 riposte and then 1 riposte on round start for 3 turns. So it'll refresh the riposte. That's what I'm talking about. You turn him into a riposter now, and you work with something like repartee. Repartee on Nightsworn, which is you can taunt the Highwayman rogue, and then he can just kind of be riposting. It can work with a duelist too, but take aim plus now increases riposte damage by 25% for 4 turns, and then Wicked Slice now has, you can only use it in the front 2 ranks, and then Wicked Slice, when you master it, now has 2 execution, which at least if you're playing on Stygian or if you're going against bosses more often, that's pretty good. It's nice to have. It's nice to have in your back pocket. It still has an execution 1 on Wicked Slice normally anyways. Okay, let's get into Sharp Shot. Like I said, Sharp Shot is not going to be the same feel-good path it was before, where you just sit back and get speed and do a ton of damage. It's a little more nuanced now. So, double tap. This, if you see all this shit, this is all right here. This is all double tap. So, let's get into the double tap stuff. It can no longer target corpses. Instead of just use the 2-3, it's now from the 2, 3, and 4. So it's a little bit of a back line, a little bit of a front line. The target ranks are from 1, 2 to 3. So instead of you having to be in the middle ranks and hit the middle ranks, you can now be in the 2, 3, 4 and hit the 1, 2, 3. No longer gains bonus damage if the target has low health. It now has a cooldown of 1. Now it removes the Highwayman back 1. And now there's the second shot. Essentially how it is now is if you shoot double tap, if it doesn't kill, you get to use a second shot on that same enemy. So it is only on the same enemy though. Now, it's called second shot. So it's within the ability overall is double tap, and then the second shot is called second shot. So mastering double tap will also master second shot. Second shot and second shot plus match the base damage and crit values of double tap and double tap plus respectively. Second shot and second shot plus and launch and target ranks are 1, 2, 3, 4. Will not activate if the original target is slain by double tap. Second shot plus has the same execution 1, and second shot plus applies combo. So if you master double tap, it'll have an execution. So it'll execute on the first shot if it can. If it does not execute, you still get to do that second shot, and then that second shot will also have the execution and apply combo. Now, the damage, way nerfed. Way nerfed. Because you are used to Sharp Shot doing a lot of damage based on it just having a high damage value, and then it also doing bonus damage to low health. So this is going to be, it's spread into 2 shots now. 2 to 4, and then 3 to 5. But it's 2 shots now. So if you really like just shooting someone for like 15, it's going to take you a little bit to get used to this. It's going to take you a little bit to get used to this. Double tap is a more interesting ability now, but for some people, they're not going to be happy that it's changed the way that it is. And that's a completely fair argument. Now, Grape Shot Blast, as I said, Grape Shot Blast gets changed a lot. So instead of launch ranks from 2, 3, 4 to 3, 4. So Grape Shot Blast is now going to hit the back ranks. Instead of hitting the front 2 ranks on Sharp Shot, it hits the back 2 ranks, which can be really good for clearing tokens or just hitting the back line in general, which is not super. They're not super tanky. Grape Shot Blast, Grape Shot Plus no longer grants strength, which was in the path in general, as opposed to on the abilities. Pistol Shot Plus launch ranks trains from 2, 3, 4 to 3, 4. So it's now you're going to be it now forces you to be a little more into the back line on Sharp Shot. Point Blank Shot no longer has combo. Point Blank now moves the Highwayman 2. And Point Blank Shot now grants 1 block. You're probably not using Point Blank on this path. You can figure it out. But realistically, you're probably sitting back and you're Grape Shot, Pistol, and double tap. Okay, so let's get into Yellow Hand. It no longer has the stats that it did before, like every other change path now. Melee skills no longer debuff bleed resist. The debuff bleed resist has now been moved to Grape Shot. Double Cross and Double Cross Plus removal of block before applying vulnerable now exists on the skill directly instead of as a path buff. So Yellow Hand still gets that nice benefit there. Double Cross and Double Cross Plus can now ignore block. Now, as I said, Grape Shot, it still hits the front two. Grape Shot applies the bleed resist debuff for all targets on 3 turns, and then when you master, it's minus 15%. So let me tell you, so here's the little weirdness right here. My understanding with Yellow Hand, basically what we've talked about in chat, is I think Yellow Hand is going to be better as they rework when Hellion gets a rework, and when the Jester gets a rework. Because as of right now, Grape Shot Blast lowers the bleed resist on the front 2 targets. The only hero other than the Highwayman himself that can hit the first 2 targets is Surgeon on the Plague Doctor, because the Jester can hit 2 and 3. So that means you're not getting the full bleed resist, because if it hits the first 2 and the Jester hits 2 and 3, it's kind of weird. It's a little weird. You're not quite getting as much value as you could out of it. Obviously, the Highwayman still gets it from himself, but I just mean as far as synergy from other heroes in general, it doesn't really work out nearly as much. Hellion can either bleed out and hit the front, or she can do if it bleeds and hit the 2 and 3. So I think as the reworks come in, Yellow Hand will feel a little better. For right now, the double bleed resist thing just feels a little weird. It's a setup for himself, but you have to argue if it's quick enough or not. So kind of my thoughts on that. Highway Robbery and Highway Robbery Plus launch ranks change from 2-3-4 to 1-2-3. Again, Yellow Hand's a little bit of a frontliner, so it makes sense that you can't use it in the 4. It no longer steals an additional positive token, which was on the path before. Highway Robbery and Highway Robbery Plus now have a plus 5% crit chance. It now applies negative 10% dot resist, which is pretty interesting. And when you master it, it steals it, quote unquote. It'll give him a little bit extra resist. So same with the Highway Robbery on the other passes. Highway Robbery and Highway Plus can now apply a debuff. They no longer require that the target has positive tokens, so you can use it all the time. And it no longer ignores your own crit token, so it'll use up your crit token. Wicked Slice and Wicked Slice target ranks change from 1-2 to 1-2-3. So instead of just hitting the front 2, it can now hit the 3rd rank also. No longer has an execute. When you master it, it'll ignore guard and has a 33% chance to combo, which can be nice because they can either set up for his own Slice Vein or set up for really anything else you need combo. And then when you master it, has a 100% chance to apply combo and crit. Okay, so same with the Grave Robber. His trinkets got completely reworked also, so let's go through them. Rat Skull still has, if first in turn order gives has a chance to give a crit token. It was 66%, now it's 33. Take aim. Skills ignore blind. So ignoring blind means it doesn't get rid of his blind, but if you have 2 blinds on you, you can now take aim and ignore it like that. Tracking shot, minus 10% stun resist, which is interesting. There's not a lot of ways to lower stun resist in this game other than through paths currently. And he still loses the extra healing versus creatures. Now, Tormenting Locket is a little more... You can use it on... It pretty much was unusable with ranged paths or ranged abilities before, but now it sort of is. You can use it if you want to. So if he's in rank 1 or 4, he gets plus 10% crit. Open Vein gives an extra bleed dealt. And range skills plus 1 stress, 15% chance of proccing that. So you could still... This is still worth it for, like, if you wanted a point blank. Plus 10% crit for a 15% chance of getting 1 stress. That's still fair. So Tormenting Locket is not nearly as closed off, I guess, as it was before, where if you were using any, ranged abilities, all of this basically was useless. So Cursed Coin plus 5% damage per positive token is the same. Highway Robbery steals the regen, which is really interesting during cultist fights. That's kind of the main reason, is because the altar can give 10 regen. If you could steal that is really nice. Either way, plus 5% damage per positive token. Pretty good anyways. Now, so those are the changes with the Highwayman and with the Grave Robber. With the Highwayman changes, I kind of have the same opinion with the Grave Robbers. I just don't know what if the average player is going to think that this feels good or not. Only time will tell. I do think that Yellow Hand will probably get better as the other heroes begin to get reworked. It feels a little odd now. I liked Yellow Hand before. I have to imagine probably the average player hasn't played Yellow Hand a lot because it did change a lot, and people like the Highwayman for kind of his blowing up ability, meaning like with the old double tap, and he didn't really do that so much on a on a Yellow Hand, but I liked Yellow Hand a lot. It feels... I'm not crazy about it. Maybe I need to try it more. But overall, I think maybe down the road I'll realize that I like it a lot, or it'll synergize with heroes in the future. So this is what I was talking about earlier. Non-damaging skills can now naturally crit with the aid of a crit token. So before Bellow, if you had a Bellow and everything on this list, you could crit with it if you had a crit token, which would debuff Pierce, but it did not have a base crit chance, and now it does. So if you don't know, abilities like this that crit give a or pierce 20% of the debuff resist or whatever resist it happens to go for. So, and you'll see big, if this ever crits, you'll see big orange letters and it'll say crit. So they changed some crits for some enemies right here. You can get into this. Smokestack having 20%, pretty kind of insane. If you guys watch my stream, you know that my nemesis is this goddamn Act 3 boss. This goddamn Act 3. Limerence has a 30% chance to crit already. Now Behold has a 30% chance to crit. Bro, come on. God fucking damn it. Anyways. Malediction no longer deals damage. Plague Doctor for Magnesium Rain increased from the cooldowns increased from 1 to 2 turns. Magnesium Rain, I guess, was busted. So that's something to keep in mind. Get into here. These are some enemies, kind of some crit changes, stuff like that. At least Behold no longer has a guaranteed chance to copy positive tokens, so that's pretty cool. At least there's that. For the Swordsman and the Spearman, which is the barricade fights, then they no longer move, and when you make them move, it removes the guard. So if you can kick them back or if you can do whatever, it'll get rid of that. Warlord has an increased chance to appear in Region 1. I don't know what the percentage is now, but I do know, I think it was 1% before. And then the Barricade and the Weapon Rack can no longer be ordained, which is nice. To get into the rest of this, disable stress damage penalty for stalling for the time being. Okay, so they added something in the experimental branch. Essentially what it was, my understanding, I don't know, don't quote me on it exactly, but my understanding is if there was one enemy left for 2 rounds, it would give your entire party stress. Similar to the reinforcements from the first game. So something along those lines. But problem is, the Chirurgeon, fucking tanky. Ghoul, fucking tanky. So like you would get penalized essentially for that last enemy alive being really tanky, which was a pain in the ass. So they disabled this for now. I assume that they'll add that back in some way, but it just didn't work for the meantime. that's why they took it off. So several items had their healing given modifiers changed to healing given from skills. The reason this is because healing given also counted on combat items, so now it no longer will. It's just skills. The General's Dream neutralize immobilize token, so this is the one that immobilizes your entire party. Now removed after 5 rounds, so it's not necessarily. I don't know if you want to call that a nerf or a buff. I guess I'd call it a nerf. Bumper Crop, which I mentioned earlier, replaced plus 50% max HP with plus 50% healing received, and then reduce the death blow resist debuff from minus 50% to minus 25%. Corpse Light, carrying you to spawn this way, no longer leave a corpse, meaning you're not gonna have you could have an eternal fight. You could, because the corpse spawns from, or the carrion eater spawns from the corpse, and then you kill it and it becomes a corpse, and then a carrion eater spawns from that corpse, and then you can't have that anymore. Inns have increased shop selection for trinkets. That's good. Infernal and Radiant Flames found at the Valley in Provisioner moved to the bottom. Just a little bit of screws up your muscle memory a little bit. Removed Face Your Failure battle modifier from all confession bosses. This is nice. This was minus 20%. Death blow resist, and now this is removed. So this is pretty nice. Some bug fixes here, mostly kind of uninteresting. Overall, very big patch. Like I said at the beginning, it's the biggest patch I believe that they've come out with since Darkest Dungeon 2 came out. So a lot of changes. I would imagine, at least from the hero path, they're going to be slowly going through and replacing all the old heroes, all the old paths to the new paths. That means Plague Doctor is going to be in the future. Hellion's going to be the future. Man at Arms, etc., etc. We don't know what the future means. It could take a year to get everything done. Could take whoever's. But my understanding is, as they have the ideas, they're going to slowly go through and kind of remake everything. So overall, very interesting paths. Or very interesting patch, sorry. again, I'm very curious to what the average player thinks of this as you guys kind of get into it. If you guys have any questions, I'm always, you can post in the comments and I will answer you there, or you can stop by my Twitch stream. I do Stygian Grand Slam runs on my Twitch stream. I will weave in and out, I believe, of Bastard's Beacon runs. I just don't think I could spend an entire run, entire stream, like 5-6 hours, whatever, doing Bastard's Beacon runs, because I'll lose my goddamn mind. Either way, I appreciate you guys watching this. I know this is a very long breakdown, but it's a very long patch notes. So I appreciate you guys being here. Again, if you'd like to subscribe, I would appreciate it. Or stop by my Twitch stream and say, hey, I watched your patch notes video. Holy fuck, why was it so long, bitch? Whatever feedback you guys want to give. Either way, I appreciate it. And I hope you have a nice rest of your day.